am Zazubaar, and yes, it has been 2 weeks since I've posted something on YouTube.
You slow bastard.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. Just life has caught up with me and has been hauling ass on me over the past week. And I just have not had the time to sit down and record.
That's not true at all. That's not. You've had the time to sit down and record. You just haven't because you've been doing what is leading into this video.
Very true. But because we're doing this video, that kind of makes up for it. No, but yes, I've been very busy, so I haven't really found the time to sit down and record something, even though I've had plans, and this is one of them. Everyone, I'd like to welcome to the channel tonight a very regular friend of ours, Ian.
Hey.
But also a new face, or a new voice, I suppose is a better way of putting it. I'd like to welcome to the channel for the first time, Mr. Deadpoolzilla.
Hey, guys.
Ooh, Deadpoolzilla, oh my god.
Now, dude, you have to burn some underwear and proclaim that you are not king of the world in order to be on the channel.
What?
How do I gotta do that right now?
You gotta do it right now. Run outside and burn a piece of underwear, and there you go.
Oh, hang on.
Damn it. Stupid regulations.
Oh, my pants are already off, so this will be easy.
Deadpoolzilla, let me just say this before we really get into the topic. You sound so much like Duke. It's ridiculous.
I get that from time to time.
I don't know. Maybe it's the shitty mic quality, but I totally hear Duke. Like I feel like
is
this
the shitty
news.
Is it the shitty mic quality on my end?
Yeah, I mean it's just like you both have like kind of that weird echoey mic going for you.
We've talked about this actually. Duke and I have talked about this. Like, do we sound alike? And he's like, "Nah, we don't."
Duke is lying. If you two like never do a video together again because like you guys will sound like the same person.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck. Yeah, good luck with that. Which like Marvel team up with us sometimes.
Yeah, you're never allowed to record a video together again. No. But
you're
anyway,
not my dad.
I am now.
Actually, since we're talking about time travel, this would be a pretty good time.
Ian, I have to introduce the goddamn thing we're talking about tonight. God damn it.
Sorry, I'm so used to hosting a show where things get off topic very easily.
I know, very much so. No, but this is on my channel tonight. God damn it. And we do not embrace the tangent on Zazubaar's channel. No, but tonight we're going to be starting kind of a mini-series, though it's not going to be as formal as my Jurassic Park one. We're just going to record these and post them whenever we can, and we'll probably have the same 3 guys doing it if we can all get together for each time we want to do it. But we are going to be going through the new series of Doctor Who, meaning the stuff that started in 2005. We're going to work our way from Eccleston all the way to Matt Smith and the current stuff on Doctor Who, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I've seen everything up to the beginning of Season 5. So we're going to start there. We're going to start Russell T Davies' run. But tonight, specifically, we're going to be reviewing Season 1 of Doctor Who and Eccleston's run. So, Ian, what were you going to say before I introduce the topic?
Oh, nothing. It was not important. I was going to make a joke about you time traveling to be his father, actually. But now that time for that joke's relevance is kind of past.
Indeed. Definitely, I agree. So
See,
Ian
it would have been hilarious, though, if
Ian had
time. This is why I need a time machine, so I can go back in time and say the right clever lines.
And the doctor just shows up in your house and it's just like, hey.
It's like,
that would be, you know, someone ending up in Ian's room. That would probably be, out of all the Doctor Who characters, that'd be Captain Jack.
No, I would not sleep with Captain Jack. Sorry.
I would.
Well, I'm not bi, so, you know, people keep trying to tell me that, like, Jack just makes you bi. I don't believe it.
Well, I'd be inclined to believe it because Captain Jack's that kind of smooth. I'd be like, I'm not gay, but I'm pretty sure I'd end up I'd probably be like in the Family Guy, I'd be like, wow, you are good.
Oh, like that Bill Clinton thing? Yeah.
No, like, that's the thing, though. That's the thing about Captain Jack that gets me, is if you watch Torchwood, if that is supposed to be an accurate portrayal of government agencies, apparently everyone that works for the British Secret Service is gay. Or at the very least bisexual.
Wouldn't surprise me, no, but now that we're actually into season 1, let's just start with the major thing. How do you guys feel about Eccleston's Doctor?
Oh, he was great. I love the just dark tone of him. It's more in retrospect as someone that's gone back and watched a lot of the old stuff, watched the movie, seen what the Time War really was, or what really happened in the Time War. I really did enjoy his run more in retrospect than I did at first, on my first time seeing it. But that's not really saying that much because I loved his run when I was watching it. There's some fantastic stuff done, and it's, from what I've heard, he originally took the part to really get people excited about Doctor Who again, and monumental success. Uh,
Clearly.
I don't think there's any argument against that. You know, it worked.
Definitely. So Deadpoolzilla, how about you? Your feelings on Eccleston?
I thought he was a great Doctor. I mean, despite the fact that he never really watched a lot of Doctor Who in his younger years at all.
Yes.
And that was the thing. He wasn't the biggest Doctor Who fan, but I really think as an actor, he treated it with the character with a lot of respect, especially the angle they were going for. And I feel like, and Duke Loops 1993 and I have gone into this, have talked about this as well, is that you could look at Eccleston's entire run as a story arc.
Oh yeah.
And yeah,
definitely.
You can totally look at it, but not just with the whole Bad Wolf thing, but as a character arc for him. Because at the end, when you first see him, he is just grim. He's angry at the whole universe, and he feels like traveling around the world feels like a job now. But at the end of his run, he's smiling. He's very accepting of this. Mm-hmm. So you could look at it like a huge character arc for him, as not as Eccleston, but as the Doctor himself.
Yeah, yes. And I'd agree with that. The thing about Eccleston's Doctor is something I've always found really interesting that writers can do with the Doctor that you can't really do with other characters, or at least not as well, is because of the whole regeneration plot device. You can have the Doctor make the noble sacrifice and continue to tell stories without cheapening the sacrifice, right?
Yes.
With Eccleston, it's like he was really looking, or with Eccleston's Doctor, I'm going to say 9 just to make it a little faster. With 9, he was really looking to make amends for what he did in the Time War, I think.
Definitely.
And so he was looking for the noble sacrifice, because there are so many times where he almost killed himself in that, right?
Yes, I would agree. As I've said in other videos on Ian's channel, Eccleston is and still remains to be my favorite Doctor. And I've elaborated this on Ian's channel, but I'll say it here now that in context of season 1, he's the same. He's my favorite Doctor for the same reason that Timothy Dalton is my favorite James Bond, because he manages to mix really well the darkness of a very tragic event that happened to him in his past, and coping with that, along with this very charming and charismatic, kind of disguise or personality that he uses to disguise the darkness. And it comes to a point in season 1 where he's really not even using it as a disguise anymore, especially when he's with Rose, because Rose, pulls the Time War out of him. And I found that very interesting. And the thing I like a lot about Eccleston's Doctor is that Eccleston's Doctor is very set in his own ways. He very rarely is open to advice from other people. He just constantly does things his own way. And I think that that's an after product of the Time War and something that makes his character really interesting.
Well, it's not just that the Doctor has, in many of his incarnations, has been like that. He's very superior. He's very much set in his own way, and he usually thinks he's right and just has the companions like, "Oh, what's this? Help me, Doctor."
Yes, definitely. And there's definitely some of that with each one that I've seen. But the thing about Eccleston is, it almost feels like he's more superior. Like there's something about him, and I think it's just an after product of the Time War, where it's just like, of course.
I mean, that's very true. Eccleston's the only one that has ranted about the insuperiorities of other species.
I mean, there's a point where he calls Rose a stupid ape.
Yeah.
Which I love that episode, by the way. Where
and it's not like he just calls Rose a stupid ape. He says another stupid ape.
Right.
Like that's basically him calling every assistant he's ever had a stupid ape, with I
Yes.
guess the exception of Ramona, but we'll not get into that.
Sure.
Let me just say this real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
For a while, Tom Baker, Fourth Doctor, travels with another Time Lord, who's a female Time Lord, right? And it annoyed me because she, just like all the other assistants, gets kidnapped and stupid shit happens to her. Like, she's the one person that should be able to handle this shit as well as the Doctor.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Definitely. Yeah, but I love Eccleston's performance. I was very sad to see him go so quickly. But I agree with you guys. His run is definitely a long character arc, especially when you compare it to Tennant, which we'll get into in the next video. Given the changes that Tennant brought to the Doctor's character. But just to talk about it in context of season 1, let's get into Rose a little bit now, since she's definitely a major part of what happens to the Doctor's character. Deadpoolzilla, I know you have some very specific feelings about Rose, so why don't you go ahead and share them with us?
All right, let it be on the record that while I don't hate Rose, I don't care for Rose. Mm-hmm. And allow me to explain. There are points in this show where I pity her, like Father's Day. That's a very good episode of her.
Definitely.
And there are other points in this show, but there are other times where you just want to punch her, like in the episode when she returns when they first bring in the Slitheen. And the moment in the episode where she's talking to Mickey and he tells her, I'm seeing another girl now, and she gets mad at him. And I'm like, you can't justify that. Everyone thought you were dead for 12 months while you were off seeing the galaxy, and he was accused of murder. And you're getting mad at him for moving on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't, she's mad at him for that, but at the same time, she knows she doesn't have a right to be. She clearly recognized that.
I didn't see it.
No, I mean, she clearly, she was mad at him, but she didn't want him to apologize, at least from what I remember about it. She recognized from a logical standpoint, yes, I have no right to be angry, but for her, she'd only been gone for, a week, right?
Right.
It was a month, maybe. So, I mean, it's the emotional... it's a very human kind of point. I mean, I can't fault her because it's a weird situation, and how else would you expect to react to that? Well, yes, logically, she has no right to be angry, but it's not a logical thing. It's an emotional reaction.
And the other point, and this one is a little more arguable, but it depends on how you look at it and how you view it. And this is a good episode through and through. But in the episode Dalek, where she is on the Dalek side at the end, where she's begging the Doctor not to kill it, all because it wants to see the sunlight. Now, keep in mind, this is a race that was responsible for wiping out thousands of alien races. Even the Time Lords in the episode Genesis of the Daleks sent the Doctor back in time to the moment of their creation to keep them from evolving to a point where we pretty much got in the Time War. And there have been multiple times where the Daleks have been responsible for the destruction of mankind in multiple timelines. And the Doctor, when you think about it, is in the right the whole time. Rose is the one
that was kind of the point, though. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna argue that was kind of the point, is she saw something human in the Dalek, which the Doctor didn't get the chance to see because he was blinded by the Time War.
Yes.
I mean, you saw it more than any other point in his run. You saw Eccleston's pure rage and torment in that episode.
Definitely. I mean, there's a point where the Dalek goes, you would have made a good Dalek.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's just me, is that the Doctor is... I feel like the Doctor is in the right in the message of, the Doctor's turning into something horrible. When you compare it to something like a Dalek, and the whole episode is where you see the Dalek kill hundreds of people,
it regrets... The Dalek goes through a character arc. That was the whole point of the episode.
Good point. But still, we'll get on to Dalek when we get to it. I still think it's a great episode. It's just, I feel like that little kink was the only thing bothering me.
I'll tell you guys what bugs me about Rose. I do really like her, but one thing I realize when she comes back in season 4, and we'll obviously get to season 4, but I'll say this in relativity to season 1. I got more sentimental about her relationship with the Doctor than I did about Rose as a character. Because Rose is very much so just, I mean, and this works for the introduction to people who probably never saw Doctor Who, is that she's very much so the eyes of the audience. She has no previous context for this crazy world of the Doctor, so she kind of gets thrown into it, and the Doctor is her and our guide into it. And that's very much how it's treated. What bugs me about her, excuse me, is that like, at her and Mickey's as an example is they constantly are just back and forth on their feelings for each other and their feelings about the Doctor. And it kind of annoys me just because it's constantly brought up whenever Mickey is in an episode. It's not as big of a deal in season 1 as it is in 2, so I don't want to focus too much on it. But it just gets frustrating only because they never really conclude it. And it starts very much so in season 1, and it makes me like Mickey less, and it makes me like Rose less. So I feel like they should have been a little bit more. And I hate to say this in context of season 1 because we're not going to get to it yet, but it makes me feel more like they should have concluded it in a stronger way of just like definitively we don't belong together or we do belong together.
Well, I mean, once we get to that later season, you get kind of both, which is weird.
Right, but again, it's not as concrete. I feel like it should have been dealt with more strongly in seasons 1 and 2, only because they're very.
It was meant to be a tragic thing in season 2, but let's get off of that and talk about it. My general thoughts on Rose is, I don't like her as a character, but I like her relationship with the Doctor.
I agree.
My problem with her as a character is she's very, very passive. And in season 1, I get it. Just from like the looks people give her about are you with the Doctor, it's just very judgmental. I get why she doesn't want to admit she has, feelings for him. And then once you start to get that really obvious sexual tension between her and Tennant, in the next season it becomes much more apparent that she can see herself with that. But my problem is she never just goes for it. And I don't like characters that just sit around and don't do anything. And that's what her biggest problem was. She never really did anything until the end of her character. And yes, I mean, that's a character arc, but it took too damn long to get there for me.
And I also feel like there are too many points where there's nearly every single episode with Eccleston, she brings the Doctor down to earth, and I think it would have had more impact if it would have happened less. Like it happens with the Gelf as well, and it happens in episode 2. It constantly happens where the Doctor is about to solve a problem, and she kind of opposes it. And I feel like it would have had more impact if either it started in Dalek or if it would have like been
Rose,
few and far between.
Resonate concrete. Sorry.
Huh?
Rose, I'm trying to resonate concrete. Sorry, I need to throw that in there.
It's okay. No, but I feel like it happens too often where she tries to point out a flaw with the way the Doctor does things. And again, I feel like it would have had more impact if it only happened like once or twice, but it happens nearly every episode in season 1. So let me ask you guys this: how do you feel about, since we're on Rose and our problems with her? But again, let me just say this: I do like her a lot. But again, I agree with Ian. It's more of the relationship she shares with the Doctor than it is so much her on her own. Like,
that's a good point. Like I said, I don't hate Rose, but it's not like I'm gonna.
I think I have the perfect way to summarize it. I would never watch, Rose Tyler Adventures show.
I was about to make the same joke.
Yeah.
I would maybe watch Sarah Jane Adventures. I would never watch Rose Tyler Adventures.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with you, and I think that's a good place to end with our problems with Rose. But again, I do like her. But let's talk about her basically her ending point in season 1. Her consuming the time vortex. Since we're kind of bouncing around, I think that's okay given we're doing the whole season. How do you guys like the reveal that all those little hints about the ending of the season with the bad wolf stuff being her going through time and space, warning her about what's going to happen with the Doctor in the future?
I thought it was actually a really. I thought it was a really. All right. I thought it was a really cool idea because it really builds up that, it was, it's something that was perpetrated by the Daleks the whole time. And watching that the first time, it's like, oh, it was Rose the whole time, huh?
See,
I thought that was a nice.
I like the idea.
Was...
I like the idea of this clue being left through the ages. That's cool. I don't like the phrase "bad wolf" is essentially meaningless. I don't like that the phrase itself doesn't mean anything. It's just kind of it's superfluous. They just needed a sentence, and it seemed like they just threw out random words that would sound cool together. The phrase itself, the clue itself, doesn't mean anything. There's no there's no aha moment. There's no eureka. It doesn't. It would have been cool if like the phrase had been 7 or wait, no, my bad. Was it Satellite 7 or Satellite 9?
It was Satellite 5, I think.
Oh, 5. Well, then I'm really wrong. But if the phrase had been S5 or just something that was directly tied to the entire thing.
Or what if it was like Alpha?
Something like that. It was so useless. It was such a useless clue, and it was just a clue for a clue's sake. The clue didn't mean anything in and of itself.
I mean, there's one shot where they try to evoke that feeling about it, like where Rose just walks out of the TARDIS with the time vortex in her, and she looks up and there's the sign Bad Wolf, but we knew since the previous episode that that was the name of the corporation, and they really, at the end of the day, it's just like it's basically a pseudonym for the Daleks. So I agree with you definitely that the term Bad Wolf, once you find out the ultimate revelation of what it does really mean, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, that could have just been something. It could have been anything that would have been connected to that situation, and it still would have made sense.
Yeah,
again,
the phrase could be anything, and that's what bugs me about it is, I'm a mystery guy. I love me some mystery stories, and when you don't seed your mystery well enough, it ruins the reveal. I mean, it's still a great reveal, but because the seed isn't as good as the mystery itself, it ruins the reveal at the end.
Yeah,
the clue it spoils it. Let me put it that way. It spoils the reveal.
The clue should have the clue shouldn't have been Bad Wolf. It should have totally been Magilla Gorilla.
What? Okay,
that would have been interesting.
Missed reference on my part. Anyway.
No, but yeah, I do like the idea of Rose going as far to consume the time vortex to save the Doctor. It's really like it's definitely works in terms of her character arc for the season, especially with the first episode. With her kind of starting out as this very, very basic existence. She works in a shop. She doesn't really have a steady relationship. Still lives with her mother. And then she ends up having to rip open the heart of the TARDIS and save the universe, even against the Doctor's, the Doctor's orders, pun intended. So get it? You guys get it? Because his name is the Doctor, and he ordered her not to do that. Get it?
And how her power level became over 9,000.
Oh yeah, well over. Okay, Ian, you can stop now.
Yeah. I'm just now imagining two Daleks like, Dalek, what is the human's power level? Let's say, it's over 9,000.
That would be amazing. Someone needs to make that fan edit.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. No, but yeah, I do really like that idea. Again, it works with her character arc. I like how far they have to go to open up the heart of the TARDIS. Like,
I don't know. It actually felt kind of ridiculous that, like, okay, you can't get inside the TARDIS. The Doctor says that the armies of Attila the Hun were not able to get inside the TARDIS, but once you're inside, a tow truck can pop open the lid.
That's kind of the thing with Russell T Davies. A lot of his stories is that they do have these little chunks of humor, and yeah, it does feel like that because the Doctor did open the heart of the TARDIS before, and it was a little easier. But you have to keep in mind that the TARDIS itself is alive, and maybe you could explain that the TARDIS didn't want to, bond with Rose.
Definitely. I think that could definitely be something brought up.
No, I mean, it seems like if the TARDIS is, to quote Matt Smith, the most powerful ship in the universe, you shouldn't be able to access essentially its power drive with a frickin' tow truck.
Well, unless it understood that she had to get back to the Doctor.
Fair enough, but that's the thing is, it's not implied that the TARDIS chose to do that, because at
Fair
that
enough.
point she should have just flipped a switch and it opened the damn door.
Fair enough. I agree with you, but I think that could definitely be something that could be speculated about.
Yeah, but on the other hand, she did beg the thing to let her go back.
Yes.
Yeah, but then at that point, why did they need the tow truck?
For a good laugh, it's the best of it.
No, if you're going to make the argument that the TARDIS was alive and it let her, then you don't need the tow truck. So once you introduce the tow truck, you firmly establish that you can access the core of the universe with a goddamn tow truck.
Again, I agree with you. I think that's the explanation that makes most sense.
Yeah.
It's just you need one or the other. You don't need both.
Fair enough.
Good point.
But let's definitely get off that one particular moment. But how do you guys feel about the ultimate reveal of it being the Daleks the whole time?
I liked it. I thought it was really cool that that's how these new fans like myself and like yourself, Bill, are introduced to just we get like a taste of how bad one Dalek can be as far as like legitimate threat, right?
Yeah.
And then like Jack says something about Daleks at one point, but like just that he's afraid of them. But then to just get them all in, what was it, the end of one episode and the entirety of another, that was shocking, because just you knew how bad one of these things was, and you knew, okay, this is certain death. This is custard. This is over for them.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, this is actually, and yeah, there's been a few good Dalek stories here and there after this. Not as great. I'd say not as good as the ones from Series 1, but this is the one where you see the Daleks at their most darkest in the new series, in the episode The Parting of Ways.
I would agree. They're definitely at their most, just because it's really their hatred of the Doctor and the Doctor's hatred of them is most brought to the forefront in this episode than it is later. Because this is the last of the Daleks as we would have known back then. And even
which gets into one of my problems with the new series until Matt Smith stuff. Every time we saw the Daleks, it was the last of the Daleks. Really, guys? Really?
Well, until we get to the Stolen Earth. I mean, then that's the one point where they explain, and it makes more sense that there's a lot of them where the new Daleks came from.
No, I'm just saying, like, even that I still had a problem with it. Just, okay, so we have in Dalek, the last Dalek. And then we have at the end of Series 1, the last of the Daleks. And then we have, randomly in Series 2, the Cult of Skara, which are the last of the Daleks. And then we just keep getting the last of the Daleks story so many times. It just got really annoying to me.
Well, it kind of rectifies the last of the whole Dalek thing in Victory of the Daleks, kind of. And when we get to Series 5, I'll talk more about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With Matt Smith, it finally makes it acceptable, but every time they showed up in the new series until that point, it was always the last of the Daleks. That got really annoying to me.
I agree to a point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could make the whole, and I'll talk about Last of the Daleks thing when we get later on in the series, but the whole thing is that with the Emperor, is that the Emperor of the Daleks, you could argue that, he survived, his ship survived on the grounds of it fell through time, it fell into the far future, and he could rebuild. He had the Time War left it open for him, that he managed to make a narrow escape after, the destruction that happened in the Time War, and, he could rebuild. The Dalek from Dalek, he was like the...
He was a soldier.
He was like a foot soldier,
that, like, in Season 1, it's perfectly fine that we get the last Dalek and then the last of the Daleks, because you realize the entire army was made from humans. That's fine. My problem with it is every time we see them after that fact, it's always the last of the Daleks,
Well,
and it got annoying.
well, let's just say this for now. We'll get there like when we get to the end of season 2. So
Sure.
let's leave season 1 as it is in terms of like the last of the Daleks, because I think that excuse me, the last of the Daleks, because I think it works best as a standalone season in that way. Since we'll leave our criticisms for the rest of it later on. Let's talk about the Emperor of the Daleks, because goddamn is he beast. He is fucking awesome, especially in the scene where him and the Doctor have the discussion about him as a religious figure.
Do
And
not blaspheme.
yeah, exactly. And he is God, and the Doctor is the devil.
That was cool.
That was so cool. And again, it works so well with Eccleston's portrayal of the Ninth Doctor. Just as this very dark figure. And just that dialogue scene alone is probably one of my favorite moments in the whole goddamn series of what I've seen so far. Just because it is so epic, the acting is spot on. And even though, and this is where Doctor Who really impresses me as a TV show. If it had been any more poorly written, people could be laughing their asses off at how the Daleks look. I mean, again, in terms of the series, they look fine, but just like the overall design aesthetic, I mean, how many people who don't know Doctor Who laugh at the way the Daleks look?
Oh, I mean, that's the thing is, we called them the metal version of R2D2.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Um, so here's the thing, and that's where the impressive aspects of it come in for me, because you've got a guy shouting at a metal tube, and it's like it's nearly Shakespearean.
yeah, actually, I meant to bring this up a couple minutes ago, but fuck it, I'll bring it up now. One of my favorite parts, just how well these writers really got the Daleks as a legitimate threat, is when they're on the satellite and you see the Daleks begin to surround it, and there's that one floating in space, and they do that cool, there's no sound in space, but you just see the lights go on, and it's saying exterminate. That is probably my favorite Dalek moment in general.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because of how perfect it gets their entire character. It's like the writers wrote those characters so well that you don't even have to hear the catchphrase anymore to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And
Just
with the
and
Dalek,
it like just what real quick, you see it floating out there, and you just immediately go, shit. You know, you just you immediately feel that like sink of, oh god, they're
Definitely.
fucked.
Especially with the build up from Dalek.
yeah, and with the Dalek Emperor himself, this is a character we have not seen in a long time. Like since if I got my classic Doctor Who right, I think we haven't seen this guy since Patrick Troughton's run, the second Doctor.
Oh wow.
Damn.
Yeah, and when we see the Emperor of the Daleks is that he thinks of himself a god. And keep in mind, religion is not a concept the Daleks know of.
Yes.
And look into this darker place. Like you can see the fear in the Doctor's face is that these are not the same Daleks I've come across. They're insane.
Oh, I loved that as well. He brought to the forefront that these Daleks are fucking crazy compared to other Daleks. I thought that
No,
was
I mean,
so cool.
not necessarily crazy, just that they hate themselves because they know they're not really Daleks. It'd kind of be like it'd kind of be like being born Jewish, but growing up a Nazi. You know?
Yeah.
It's such a weird concept that it's hard to explain. It's it's like the serious version of Uncle Ruckus. Um,
Yes.
from the Boondocks.
One thing I also really liked in regards to the reveal about the Daleks being behind Bad Wolf, I like what they're putting on television that is preparing Earth for conversion into Daleks. Is that they're putting, because the whole concept of the Daleks is that they are, everything emotional is taken out and they are simply killing machines that are only designed to hate. That is the only emotion that they express. And what do they put on television? They put on reality shows where people die and people are supposed to find it entertaining. They devalorize human life. And I just made that word up.
I was going to comment on that. Thank you.
They turn human life into a game, and that is the perfect training for becoming a Dalek. And I found that so cool, and it made all the more sense when you look back on Bad Wolf once you learn that it's in relation to the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that was epic.
I agree completely. So like, then how do you feel about the first time we see the satellite, where it's not this desensitization to the value of human life, but it's this weird, like, mechanical people kind of thing.
Oh,
with the news station.
Right. Yeah, I think it's almost like the first step of what Satellite 5 turns into later. Because before it's a game show that desensitizes, is a better word, thank you, that desensitizes people to human death, then it's a news station that indifferently reports on human death and other terrible events, and it's basically like the structure of a separate society. Those people who live there working at the news station live and die by the news, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good first step to what becomes of the Daleks later on. Now, just to clarify, the creature that's controlling that news station in that episode has nothing to do with the Daleks, right?
As far as I can tell, I mean, they might have installed it because they knew it'd be useful.
Okay.
Is the best argument I could make for it.
Yeah.
Bill, you might kind of hate me, but you did just make me think of something that kind of makes me want to go back to Eccleston and Rose a little bit,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. Cool. Go ahead.
Am I the only one that finds it vastly interesting and that it speaks to the the Ninth Doctor's character, that the very first place he takes his new assistant is to the end of the world?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting. I never thought of it that way either. That's so cool.
Well, it just occurred to me as you were saying that, for some reason.
And it is kind of his way of saying, "Hey, you want to travel with me? Well, this is what I see on a daily basis these days."
Definitely, he's preparing her for the darkness that will ensue. And I feel like that's just something that's going to come from Eccleston's portrayal, because Eccleston's portrayal was very dark. So I think that he doesn't want an assistant that thinks this is all going to be puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yeah, no, that just occurred to me. It's just that is like a really messed up thing to show. Like, he makes light of it. He's like, yeah, it's natural, it's gonna happen. But at the same time, well, not light of it. He's realistic about it. But at the same time, of all the things to show somebody for their very first experience in the future, the death of your planet. Like, let's say that the whole, satellite being attacked by the last human, let's say that plot didn't happen. Let's say Eccleston's plan worked, they got onto the satellite, they watched the Earth explode. Where does it go after that? It's just such a weird idea to me. That idea of, I want you to watch your planet die.
Do you guys think that maybe part of it could be that since he hasn't had an assistant or a companion since he watched his own world die, do you think that he might want to put her on his playing field?
Possibly.
That's a good way of thinking it.
And it's very messed up, but it definitely makes sense given the fact that he just watched recently in his time zone or his time, line. He just watched Gallifrey get
recently
destroyed.
while he was just in the next time zone over.
In Eastern Awkward Time.
Right? Oh God, inside jokes.
That no one else will get except for me and Ian. High five.
Internet high five. Awesome.
It's just Ian clapping his hands and that we can't see. No, but while in his own timeline, he just watched his own world die. He meets up with this girl who he wants to explore the universe with. I think he's just like, okay, before we do this, I'm putting all the cards on the table. You're gonna experience the same thing I experienced. And this is even before he tells her about Gallifrey.
Yeah, I just thought about that. That's so interesting that's the like, I could never imagine any of the doctors, and the little I've seen of them, I could never imagine any of them doing that before Eccleston, and I couldn't imagine anyone doing that after him.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine Tenet, taking Martha Jones to the end of the world.
and part of it is, again, as we were just saying, Eccleston's doctor does definitely hide the Time War from Rose at first. Like he doesn't tell her about it till the end of episode 2, right?
I don't even know when he tells her about it, to be honest. You're the most recent viewer. You'd be the one to ask.
Deadpoolzilla, do you remember? Is it the end of episode 2 where he tells her about Gallifrey and the Time War?
I think it's either episode 2 or 3. Now that I think about it.
Okay. Well, 3 is. Oh no, 3 is the Unquiet Dead, so it's definitely not 3. So
Wait, The Unquiet Dead, is that the one with Charles Dickens?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, the Time War is mentioned in that episode.
So it's definitely episode 2. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So it's so fucked up because, and again, he hides it from her, but he hides it even more from Martha because we as the audience already know about it.
Yeah, and
And
it's really interesting when he starts to explain it to Martha.
yeah, and again, we'll get to that when we get to season 3. But I just thought of that, and that's even more interesting. That he's even more like after he's told someone, and as we were just saying, forced them to experience the same thing in a different way. It's very interesting. No, but let's talk a little bit about some of the one-off or created in this particular season villains. So let's talk a little bit about like probably the biggest aside from the Daleks, the Slitheen. How'd you guys feel about the Slitheen as villains?
I didn't like them. I didn't like them.
They're all right. They were kind of like forgettable Doctor Who. I like their return more than I like their first episode.
Yeah.
Their first episode feels very generic, like it could be any alien race.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, and the other thing with the huge, like the fat suit farting.
Yeah,
that got on my nerves, and they didn't come off threatening. I mean, they look like giant toad babies.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Also, the CGI is very inconsistent with the suits.
Yeah, that's the other thing, and I mean, yeah, I will agree with Ian is that their return, the return of that character, well, the last remaining Slitheen, is a bit more dramatic and a little more interesting. Their first one in that two-parter is just, eh.
Bill, you and I talked about this a little bit, and I think you said something that was very apt, so I'm going to say it instead. Um, you said that it shouldn't have been a two-parter, and because it just feels stretched out, and I really do agree with you.
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that way. Because it's really not a complex plot. Once you find out what the hell the purpose of that ship crashing was, and it's like the first 25 minutes of episode 1.
Yep.
It's a fucking distraction, and it's just like if it was more complex than that, I could see it, but it's just the explanation Eccleston gives for why the Slitheen did that is just like it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
You just spent the whole teaser for the first part is based around that incident.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's a really fascinating incident, that I've talked to you about this a little bit, Bill. Russell T Davies, you can clearly tell, was trying to bring the Doctor out into the spotlight.
Oh, definitely.
And so, like, he was really big into the whole, you can't deny that aliens exist in this universe anymore. And I think that really helped for his run. It was a great idea.
Yeah.
Because it's something that had never really been done with the Doctor before, so it really did work.
Mm.
Don't get me wrong, I kind of prefer that over this urban legend, which, I mean, Moffat's stuff that he's doing with Smith, Smith is an urban legend at this point now, but at the same time, he's really not. Because it's just, people know about the Doctor when the villain needs to know about the Doctor.
That's always been the way it's worked from what I've seen.
Yeah, but for Russell T Davies, what he was really trying to do was give the Doctor the recognition he deserved, but the Doctor wasn't willing to accept it because of how he felt about himself.
Yes, I would say that comes.
Something that you'll notice in each of these is he always refuses to have a Christmas meal.
Yes.
He never feels like he deserves the reward of a Christmas dinner.
Until the end of season 4.
Yeah.
And I found that so cool.
It wasn't even a reward at that point. It was he was having dinner with himself at that point.
Indeed.
So.
And I suppose you could stretch that metaphor to he's finally accepting who he really is. No, but let's get off of season 4 and let's kind of wrap up with season 1 since we've been going on for over like a half hour now. But we'll wrap up soon. The last comments on the Slitheen. I feel like the introduction of that ship crashing is more interesting than the plot around it. Because the Doctor has this very awesome line where he goes, because Rose is like, "Aren't you going to do something?" And he's just like, "Nope, maybe this is the human race steps on its own legs and makes itself known in the universe." Because there's definitely like this bitterness about him that it's like, I don't always like saving you guys. It's a little bit of a chore. I mean, I'll do it, but it's...
See, what actually, I'd kind of disagree with you. I like the idea behind what the Slitheen were doing. It was a really neat idea for a plot. They wanted to get the Earth to nuke itself so then they could sell the waste as spaceship fuel. That was a really cool idea. That's enough to with a different kind of character set. That's enough to make a movie out of, in my opinion. That basic plot outline. I think that was a really interesting reveal. It's not they're trying to blow up the world because they're evil. They're just making money. I thought that was really cool.
I don't know. I feel like it should have just been a one-parter. It didn't feel like it was if there was enough.
I'd agree. It should have been a one-parter, but only because it's Doctor Who. It's not enough to carry a Doctor Who episode on 2 parts. But if this were another thing, if this were its own thing that the Doctor wasn't involved in at all, I think the general premise of aliens trying to sell nuclear irradiated Earth as spaceship fuel could be a really interesting plot for a movie.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about episodes that we really like? Because Dalek is, of course, even though I had that little kink with Rose, that's my favorite episode of Series 1. And I've talked a lot about it. My second favorite, though, is the Empty Child 2-parter.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I love the Empty Child. Are You My Mummy will never, ever leave my head.
Yes, and there's that great joke in season, I think it's season 4, with the, what are they called? The,
Unit?
No,
Oh, the Centaurans?
yeah, the Centaurans and they're poisoning the Earth, and the Doctor puts on the mask, and the general's about to do something kind of nasty, and he just turns to the Doctor, and the Doctor goes, "Are you my mummy?"
Yeah, that awkward moment where the Doctor makes an inside joke with himself.
That was awesome, because no one else got it except for him. And he did it at a time where it's just like he's trying to be a wise ass because he doesn't agree with the methods they're using. So that was so perfect. I didn't see it coming at all. It didn't even occur to me, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. What's my favorite of Eccleston's run? It's very hard for me to say. The Empty Child, definitely a runner up for that.
Well, I mean, the Empty Child is definitely like Eccleston's favorite episode of what he did, and I mean, Bill, it's what got you so into Eccleston. So
definitely, and again, I'd probably say that one, but I also really, really like Parting of the Ways a lot. So it's tough for me.
I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of these episodes. Can you outline that really briefly?
Oh no, that's the final one where we find out about the Daleks, and
Oh, okay.
that's just Eccleston's battle with the Daleks.
Okay, fair enough. I do like that one. I like Eccleston's last line. To be honest, that's my favorite Eccleston moment.
Definitely.
More so than Everybody Lives. Just Rose, you were great, and you know what? So was I. And then regeneration.
In terms of, I'm sorry, I thought you were done, Ian. But yeah, in terms of like for Empty Child with me is that I think one of my favorite lines was that little character moment between the Doctor and that other Doctor, and the Doctor tells him, before this war started, I was a father and a grandfather, but I'm still a doctor. And the Doctor replies with, "I know the feeling."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was cool. What I also really like about Empty Child is that, and me and Ian talked about it, we reviewed that episode on its own one time. So I won't go into huge detail on it, but one thing I also really like about that episode is the whole Everybody Lives scenario. It comes at a perfect time for the Ninth Doctor, just because of, he's had a fucked up couple of years. So for one time where he gets to enjoy a real victory, you know, it's so heartwarming for that character. And I also like the episode it appears in being called "The Doctor Dances," because it's almost like he's relishing in that I finally fully succeeded in doing something. No one died.
That's something that Eccleston's been the only one to get. You know, there's always someone that dies along the way for in any of the other Doctors. I honestly cannot think of another episode where nobody dies.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, how many times have we heard 10th Doctor say, "I'm sorry"?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's like it's nearly mechanical for him at that point because you hear him say it so much. And not that he doesn't mean it, but it's just like, God, you say that so often. Uh, oh, this is another thing I wanted to ask you guys because she's gonna come up later. And I'm sorry we're jumping all over the place again, but how do you guys feel about Cassandra as a villain? I wasn't crazy about her. I thought that because she comes off as such a minor character and she's interesting because of like the whole "I'm the last pure human" thing. But she is
she's got a little bit of
so
that Dalek thing going for her, doesn't she?
definitely, but she is so annoying.
Yeah, I had a little more sympathy for her in series 2, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But
yeah, I would agree. And she has a very interesting way of getting around. We'll talk about that when we get there. But at least in her first appearance, and it does definitely continue into her second, she is so fucking annoying. Um, though I do like the fact that when she brings in the jukebox, she plays the songs of Earth's past, and it's "Burn, Baby, Burn."
That was funny.
That was awesome.
No one got the joke except for the Doctor.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was great.
Like, and they found it like they found the like they couldn't understand the language for some reason, even though everyone was clearly still speaking English. It wasn't the TARDIS at all.
Yeah, and one thing I find funny is that it kind of resonates with the way we look at old kind of music and text and stuff. Is like when you hear a song sung in Latin, it's just the sound of it that's awesome. When you hear like you know these big orchestral themes that aren't just names spelt backwards and shit, and it's actual Latin, it sounds epic and amazing. We don't know what it fucking means.
Yeah.
It could be saying, "We like to drink milkshakes."
yeah, and you know, in terms of like other one-off villains, when you're talking about that, the first episode of Doctor Who Series 1, we get a classic villain, the Autons.
Oh, I didn't know they came from somewhere.
Yeah, that's actually the third Doctor's story.
And they've been a classic.
It's not the same villain though. It's I thought it was just the same manifestation, if you will, but not the same alien.
It's this. They pretty much. I know they changed later on in the new series, but in the first series, in season 1 of Doctor Who, that is generally the same kind of.
No, like I know it's still like the walking mannequins, but in the original, because I've seen the third Doctor episode where they did this. In the original one, it's not living plastic. I don't think. There's something about like aliens, brains, and meteors or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm a little sparse on the details. But in the ninth Doctor episode, it's like living plastic. So I
Yeah,
think they
they
just
make a big
adopted
deal out
the
of that.
method in which it worked as opposed to the alien itself.
Yeah. Well, yeah. With that, I thought it was an interesting idea to bring back a classic villain first and foremost in a new series rather than bringing someone new. I think it's just a way of signifying, yeah, this isn't a reboot.
Oh, definitely. I doubt that there were many fans who were thinking it was, only because one of Eccleston's first lines is he looks in a mirror and goes, "Not bad."
Mm-hmm. Which I'm still kind of confused by that because that is kind of a plot hole. The more I think about that,
Well, the question is, how long does this take place after the Time War?
well, no, because I mean, Rose does that investigation on the Doctor, and there's like all these pictures of him like at the Kennedy assassination. It's clearly 9. There's him at the Kennedy assassination, him with the family that didn't get on the Titanic. But as Bill's saying, he walks into Rose's apartment, and it's like he's looking at himself for the first time. So there's an inconsistency there.
Well, think of it. I like to think of it this way with the Doctor, the whole Doctor looking at his face thing. Is that I like to think that Eccleston, since he's so serious, I think he just doesn't have time to look at himself in a mirror. He's not that.
But
he doesn't.
in picture.
He doesn't strike me as a vain doctor. So I don't think. I like
No,
to
no,
think
not,
that.
not. Let me say this. He's posed for a picture with this family that he saved from getting on the Titanic. And it's like, a proper Victorian picture. You'd have to have looked at yourself. It's just it's a major inconsistency.
Well, I would also say that, it definitely is a little bit of a plot hole. I'll agree.
Yeah, but wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. That's the best way you could look at it.
that's
Because
the explanation.
that's not okay to me. Saying wibbly wobbly timey wimey does not cover plot holes in Doctor Who. It just covers explaining weird stuff. This isn't a weird thing to explain. He's a time traveler. There's still linear time progression of events for him. So it's
Honestly,
just
I think that the thing about it is, Davies was definitely trying to create this mystery around the Doctor, as a time traveler and someone who's kind of omniscient. So I think that placing him throughout history and him looking the same was a way to interest audience members who didn't know about the Doctor.
and I get that, but that doesn't save the problem.
I agree, but I think that being someone
maintaining some level of objectivity here.
Definitely. But I'm just trying to explain or trying to rationalize why it was done.
Yeah, good point. When you
I,
it that
from
way.
from a plotting the show, or not plotting the show, from a marketing the show aspect, I totally understand why they did it. I'm speaking from clearly a plot point here.
Yeah. And when you look at it that way, it does kind of bother you when you think about it too much. It's like one of those little tiny things. The more you think about it, the more it's gonna you're gonna scratch your head about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I have that same thing. Anytime there's a multiple Doctor episode, because they never the newer Doctors should never be surprised. Deadpoolzilla, I'm echoing really badly from you.
Sorry that my headphones fell out. It's back in.
All right.
Okay, no, it's just let me just repeat that because there was that weird audio issue. Whenever they cross over the Doctors, the new Doctor should never be surprised about what's going on. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
that
do
always
they ever
bugs
explain that since time is in flux that this didn't happen for him?
No, not at all, because that doesn't make sense. If it happened to the past Doctor, it has to have happened to the future one, because they're talking to each other as if it's different if you were to go into the timeline and you're going to an alternate universe where the second Doctor hadn't regenerated into the third at this particular moment, but they're not doing that. They're clearly in the same universe every time they do it.
I like what they did with Tennant and Davison in the Children in Need special, because that was made the point of the plot. Was that Tennant remembered? So I hope when they do the 50th anniversary thing, they give it that same kind of thoughtful explanation.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is it's just one of those problems. I'm a time travel stickler, and you got to make sense with the Doctor Who universe. Yes, time is in flux, but only if you don't know what happens. That's the thing that they've established in there. Time can be rewritten, but only if they don't know what's about to happen, which is why it makes perfect sense when he's out there saving people, because as far as he knows, the Earth doesn't end like this.
Yeah.
So that's fine, but so he should know what's going to have happened since he was there in an earlier version of himself. So it's one of those things that bugs me.
Well, I'm pretty much spent on this. All I gotta say is I loved Eccleston's run, and like I said, it was a great character arc for the Doctor himself. Rose, while I did have some complaints, I didn't outright hate her. I wasn't like burn Rose. And it was cool to see.
I was definitely not like that at all.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not I wasn't one of those people who was like, I absolutely despise Rose. And
she got a little annoying, I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah, she did.
She's not one of her moments.
Just about every assistant.
But in all honesty, this is probably like a good jumping on point for any Doctor Who fan.
For sure.
Yeah. So those are my final words.
Yeah.
My thing is always start with Blink, watch anything else after that point.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of summing up, and we should definitely wrap this up. I mean, we're probably well over an hour at this point. So season 1, as someone who just got into the show in the past few weeks, I would agree with Ian. Once you've seen Blink, I think that's a good point of getting into what Doctor Who is like generally. But when you want to get into the story of it, I think definitely start from the episode called Rose and then go forward. I think that once you're familiar enough with how the show works and you're into that, then I think you're ready for the continuity. And let me just say this before we end really quick. And I was saying this to Deadpoolzilla before we started recording. I think the major problem with getting people in the Doctor Who is that they feel very intimidated by the continuity. And as someone who finally got into it and is talking about it with the way I am now, it's not that big of a deal. Once you watch it linearly.
Wrong point in the video to say these things.
What was that?
This is the wrong point in the video to say these things.
Indeed. No, but I absolutely love this season. Eccleston is, and will probably for a while will be my favorite Doctor. So definitely great run. I was very sad when Eccleston went and when he regenerated, but the stuff after this is fantastic, and we will be getting into that in the coming days, weeks, years. When we talk about
technically we've already done it. It's just not posted in your timeline.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway. So thank you very much for joining us for this season 1 review of Doctor Who. I'm Zazubaar.
I'm SYDPART2.
I'm Deadpoolzilla.
And we will see you in the future for reviews of future season of Doctor Who.